expressed on this show do not reflect that of the staff and management of WNOV and W293 CX 106.5 FM Courier Communications Milwaukee, but are the sole comments of the host and guest of this particular show.
And we are live back on Be a Voice Radio, Wisconsin Voices, 860 WNOV 106.5 FM. We got Bryan Sanders here, community outreach organizer for Wisconsin Voices, with my boy
Dray, policy director for Wisconsin Voices.
Man, and two all-star guys we got as far as guests today. I'm going to have them introduce themselves, but these are two young gentlemen that are important to me in my life, and I think they're important to a lot of people in their lives. I want to shout them out just to say that first. And then have them bring themselves in and tell who they are and what they do in this wonderful city of ours. So go ahead and get started. Whoever wanted first.
All right. So tomorrow, Hazelwood, I'm actually the director of programs at Our Next Generation. It is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So I'm, like I said, the director of programs, making sure that all the educational needs are taken care of. Long-time educator, though, so not just necessarily at Our Next Generation. I also was in NPS. And studious, just a studious person. My father, my mother, everybody in my family, for the most part, especially immediate family, were educators. So therefore, ultimately, I just automatically went into education. My father always said to be prolific and a proficient student. So therefore, I make this a lifelong journey, so to speak. Anything else you need?
Nah, you know what? And I believe that 100%, man. How many deep conversations we didn't had over the years. So lifelong student indeed. And I thank you for that. Shout out to families, man. What's some family last names? Go ahead.
Whitley, Hazelwood, full of. Got a few more in it. I'm probably a child. I'm missing a few, but big family.
Yeah, big family. I know that for a fact.
Adams.
Yeah, right. Shout out to Adams too as well. All right, and next, another close companion and great guy as well. Go ahead, tell the folks who you are.
Willie Williams. Willie Williams, just a principal right now at Glen Hills Middle School. Been in education for the past, since 2009 in the classroom. So, what is that? 16 years. Yeah, just grinding and trying to make sure that our kids are getting the best education. All kids, right? So, getting the same type of education, whether you're in the suburbs or you're in the city. I just want kids to have the best opportunities and the best education that they can get.
Absolutely. I love that. And I really, again, thank y'all for, taking time. I'm glad I was able to catch y'all during the spring break, time. So this is even more important. It was God setting this up. So again, thank y'all. So Joe, I think you want to kick it off for us.
Let's just kick it off. If you haven't figured it out yet, today's topic is education. We're going to talk about
there we go. Right.
Education today.
I forgot to say that part.
That's all good. I think it was implied though, but how would you guys, and either one of you can answer this or both, how would you describe the current state of education in Wisconsin?
Kick it off.
The state of education in Wisconsin right now, from my perspective, and like the intro said, these are the thoughts, my own thoughts, so nobody else's thoughts. But I would say we have a lot of work to do. It's just a lot of inequality that I see. Because I've been in the inner city, I've been in the city, I've been in the suburbs, and it's just like, it's not the same from what I see as far as resources, So whatever we can do and whatever you all can do to get those resources to be equitable throughout every school district, that's what I want to see.
Great.
I like that. Maul, what you think?
And I'm sorry, could you repeat that question one more
Sure.
time?
Yeah.
I
Just
appreciate
describe the current state of the of education in Wisconsin.
Okay. And interestingly enough, and I'll start by preface on this. I can only speak learnedly from the metropolitan area, the Milwaukee metropolitan area. I'm not in, for example, Marshfield or Oconomowoc, so I can only speak for the Milwaukee area. I want to go out on a limb and say crisis as a way to describe it. I don't want to necessarily push it all the way there, but I would say that we have some grave challenges. And I mean grave by I would hate to see some of the educational things actually fall by the wayside because of mismanagement and so on and so forth. And what I am talking about particularly right now is just NPS based. So I would say that, yeah, we have some challenges that we definitely need to address. And I think that it is layered. I don't think that it's just one side of it. So what I mean by that is I think that students are a product of their environment. Students are also, when they come from certain family dynamics, I think that may trickle into the school system because most of the time in that school system, they're 8 hours of the day. But I also think that there's some incompetencies at the staffing level. I think there's some incompetencies at the administration level. So I think that we just have, some challenges in which we need to address at different levels of education. That doesn't mean that we still shouldn't be optimistic about it. And optimistic about our next generation. And hence, like I said, I'm the director of our next generation. So I'm fully vested in that. So, so like I said, if I had to use a word to describe it, I would say just challenged. But that is at this maximum point of the spectrum, so to speak.
Okay. All right, you mentioned challenges, so it's a good segue to the next question. Within those challenges, you can bounce back to you if you want to take it first. Since you have to. What are some of the biggest challenges facing our education system today? I know y'all already tapped on some of it, but I guess if you want to dig a little deeper, if it's any that you see from both your views, what are those challenges that you've been seeing lately?
Absolutely, and I think it like Bryan or Nick, which one do you prefer?
Man, look, you said Bryan is cool. I understand. Bryan is cool for this because they go, who's Nick? Who's Nick? There's some listeners that are going to know Nick. So, for y'all don't know, my first name is Bryan, and then family and loved ones call me Nick.
Absolutely. So, okay. Well, as Bryan had just stated, I think I touched on a few of those challenges. I always try to look at things from a wider perspective, a broader perspective. So, if I had to break it down, and I hate to go this way because it is so broad, but I would say just the family dynamic would be first. Yeah. And I'm saying that because I've seen students come into a school system or into the organization where they may not have the strongest family life. And therefore, it's hard for them to focus because they're trying to actually manifest something in the organization or in the school, if that makes sense.
No, I do.
Yeah.
So,
big time.
I've seen that on multiple occasions, and I always tell the parents. So we have a strenuous process that we do at our next generation where parents have to come in and we do like an orientation. So essentially it's just, see where you are, what your students' needs are, and so on and so forth. And I do that because I want to not only have the most successful opportunity for the student, but I also want to get a chance to gauge the parents. Where are you? And what is that you want for your child?
Get to see that family dynamic.
Absolutely. Yep. So, and that's, like I said, one of the biggest challenges is just saying, okay, well, if I start with a strong foundation, which is in the home, I can actually work with that person or work with those parents to make that student a little bit more proficient in school. So like I said, so for me, it's starting with that family dynamic, that family life. And like I said, not to go too deep into not too far into the deep water, so to speak, but I've had multiple individuals say, well, some students that come from single parent household as African Americans, we've always been hit with strife. We've always had plight, but we always fought through it. So therefore, I don't use that as an excuse anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, you know, it's still, because that for me, it just kind of gives a pass.
Yeah.
And I just can't do that anymore. I've been in education long enough to know, okay, well, no, that's not the only caveat that we have here. Like there's other things at play. So maybe that child is not getting enough attention. Maybe that child just doesn't have, you know, some of the things that they should have in a home life or just in a family life, whether it's immediate or nuclear. So, you know, it's just, so for me, family life is a great challenge or a big challenge to overcome. I think Willie and I was talking about staffing, so to speak. And that's just sometimes, like I said, comes with competency and so on and so forth. And you know what? And I don't want to take any of the, I know Willie has some great responses as well, but I think those two, you know, are great. And if y'all don't mind me just giving a story, I was at high school, and I won't name what high school it was, and I won't name the teacher that it was, but we were in a professional development session. That's where teachers get together. We talk about strategies and so on and so forth. And I had one teacher taught social studies, and he told me, and this is when I was in an NPS school, where he told the staff, he said, I could go and really teach at Menominee Falls. He said, I really could go out there and I could just teach there. Mm-hmm. What I perceive that as, so that means that you'll do a disservice to our students here. Mm-hmm. You will take your talent, so to speak, to Menominee Falls, and you'll teach out there. So I could really go out there and teach. Mm-hmm. I don't have to be here. I really could just go out there, but I really have to do some work. I said, I was taken aback by that. But that's the incompetency when I'm, staffing. Mm-hmm. Those individuals that really don't care, they're not passionate, they can just
like the empathy for the situation.
Say, okay, let's just keep it going.
Yeah.
So that's a concoction for disaster, right? Mm-hmm. A student that's having some problems, or potential challenges at home, a staff member or a teacher that just doesn't care. You get those two together, it's bound to be some problems.
Yeah, you can hit the student getting hit crazy on both sides.
Absolutely.
If there's no safe space or no haven for them to really be, learn how they're supposed to learn without, feeling like they being a pest or a burden to somebody.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. It was just like we were talking outside before, and I was just saying that staffing for me, that is the most difficult part. Talent recruitment, trying to find people who are just as dedicated as those teachers who've been in it 30 years, who've been in it 40 years, who are on their way out, trying to attract that newer generation of teachers. I think it's so difficult to find quality people who actually care for kids. It's not just a 9 to 5 or I clock in, I clock out type of job or career. Like this is like your career. So you have to be diligent. You have to be focused. You have to want to get better. And it's all not going to happen overnight. So attracting those type of people who are, well, one, educated enough, who have the background, who went through some type of program to get prepared to be a teacher, because it's not just teaching in the classroom.
Right. That's real.
There's way more that teachers have to do. And as an administrator, I look back when I was a teacher, and sometimes I forget, like, I can't just harp on my teachers all the time because they have a lot that they have to manage, and they have to be multifaceted, and they have to be able to wear many hats. So we're looking for those type of people. But I think that is one of the critical things that's harming education right now, is getting those kids in. Because like, what's attractive to sitting in a classroom 8 hours a day and having pushback from all different types of individuals who may have different type of like you had said, backgrounds or behaviors. So and not even behaviors, but just outlooks on life. They're all individuals. So how are you able to manage all of that and still want to come back tomorrow and next week, and then still want to come back next year and do this all over again with a brand new group of kids?
Do you find that tough to maintain and retain those good teachers? And what are some of those factors maybe that go into retaining good, when you find a good teacher, you're like, hey, we don't want this person to leave? What are some of those tools and tactics you can use to try to keep them there?
I mean, we try to make their time at school as less arduous as possible, right? I'm just be honest.
Yeah.
Pay would be the best,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
but we know that a lot of the funding in the education isn't really coming to teachers, and that's unfortunate. And that's like another crisis, I would say. Just talked about attracting quality staff. You really want to make sure that you can pay them and keep them, right?
Right.
But we know money is not being flooded into education, so it's
Right.
somebody really has to love what they do.
And like you said, there's a lot on the front end for a teacher to go through. I mean, you have to go through years of schooling, then you have continuing education and different things that you have to continuously do. So there's a lot on their plate and a lot of expense that they've incurred up front to go to college, to maintain continuing education, to even to down to buying supplies for their own classrooms.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, definitely. They get hit hard.
I got a quick question before Joe
Yeah.
goes to his next one. With like, and it's not a question that's on the on the script right now, but with the times changing, and both of y'all been teaching. Y'all went from having excuse me, millennial students to Gen Z students. What are some of those skills that you have seen that need to start, kind of shifting, or maybe new skills being added that y'all have seen that some of the teachers need to have? Because I know both of y'all sit in the administration section of the schools. What are some skills that you've seen that student or teachers may need to start enhancing to make themselves a little bit more aware in these classrooms that you may not have been seeing, or some, may not? I know you talked about the competency and everything. Is there some skills that you've seen that need to be acquired lately that haven't? I'm not just talking about the educational side, maybe just, some natural skills from internally that they may need to adjust to or putting on their plate.
Well, I would just say, me personally, I'm not technically savvy like that. But the whole digital component, that's kind of, as far as, and what I mean by that is, and I know Willie can speak a little bit more in detail about it, but, there's so many different online options for students to learn now.
Yeah.
And teachers just have to be abreast of what's going on and what's new. You know what I'm saying? So I made it, like I said, I'm not necessarily that, so to speak, but that is because the new generation, as you stated, the Gen Z, they're very in tune to either social media or their phone, tablet, computer. So to a certain extent, we do have to kind of meet them there. Because it's almost to the point where if they do want to be on their phone, and I actually employed this a long time ago when I was teaching, if I caught a student on their phone and we were talking about a subject, look up whatever it is that we're talking about. So if we were talking about World War II, look up exactly what happened. Or, because so now, as opposed to ousting him out with, his phone, I'm making him use the phone to actually do educational things. And the first few weeks, they're like, dang, we got caught, but we are using our phone, so I would say, just from, and I know that may be, superficial, but just teachers becoming a little bit more tech savvy, so to speak, or at least, kind of staying with the times, I guess, as far as what this generation is attuned to, which is, like I say, all the just digital stuff, tablets and so on and so forth. So.
Okay. How about you, Will?
Mine is more of a characteristic, just grit. Just making sure that you're able to deal with all of those different aspects of the job that come with being a teacher. And I say grit because it's not going to happen. Kids aren't going to learn overnight. It takes time.
Absolutely.
And it's not, I keep on using this, but it's not a microwave. It is definitely going to be a slow cooker. And everybody wants to eat out of the slow cooker. They don't. You might want to eat out of a microwave, that's your thing. But
I slow cooker.
I prefer the slow cooker, and it's going to take time. Kids aren't going to get it overnight. So, are you going to have the grit for a kid after you teach something, for a kid not to understand it, for you to come back again and have to teach it again, or that lesson didn't land? So, what am I going to do now? How can I teach this a different way? You just have to have the grit, and I think that's we have, like you said, Gen Z, and they are on this social media thing, and they want that instant gratification, and they want it right now. But when it comes to education, it's not going to happen right now. Your lesson that you teach may not land for a kid for another 10 years, another 5 years. It may not resonate with them until they get older. So you really have to know that what you're doing is you're planting a seed, and you have to keep on watering it, and somebody else is going to water it next year, and then it's eventually it's going to grow.
I like that. That's real. We're gonna take a break. We're gonna come back. We got Mr. Willie Williams and Mr. Tamar Hazelwood from the education section for Be a Voice Radio. Wisconsin Voices, Bryan and Joe in the morning. We'll be back.
Welcome back. This is Be a Voice with Wisconsin Voices. We have a couple great guests today. We're talking about education. So we want to continue the conversation a little bit. This is kind of for either one of you or both of you. In your opinion, what needs to be done to ensure equitable access to education for all students in Wisconsin?
Where you want to take this one?
Equitable access
to education.
That's a lofty question. You can take it. I gotta think about an answer.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, can you read it one more time for me?
Sure. Like, just how do you ensure that schools, or I'm sorry, in your opinion, what needs to be done to ensure equitable access to education for all students in Wisconsin?
And I kind of hark back to what I stated prior to, I can only speak learnedly from, perspective of Milwaukee, so to speak, because I think it would look completely different if I asked somebody that was, and like I said, and no shot or disrespect towards any other province, but if I asked somebody from Oshkosh, they may have a completely different answer than I would,
right?
Because it's just different dynamics behind it. That is, like Willie said, that is loaded. I would say for us to have equitable access, because I always think of it as there was a French sociologist, Proudhon, and he actually put forth a concept called cultural capital. So it's how a person actually perceives things, their speech pattern, the way that they see the world, their paradigm for the most part. So I look at things from that perspective. So if I'm thinking about something being equitable for our students that's in the metropolitan area, and that goes for not just African American students, but Caucasian American students, Asian American students, and so on and so forth. What books do we have? But even more so, then again, that kind of backs up to what are we reading? What are the teachers that are in the school? What training have they received in regards to teaching Asian American students, African American students, and so on and so forth. So I could just go the route of just saying, okay, budget wise, like what we would need to actually ensure that we have enough books or we have enough laptops or computers and so on and so forth. But if those items are there and we don't have the students that are willing to actually address those items or get into those items, I kind of just sit there. Now that's money that's just a lot of the stuff that won't be used. So I guess I'm looking at it from a culture perspective. And I kind of just harp back right to the whole family unit. I try to look at things holistically, and that's kind of where I'm going. So would that mean better access to maybe just teachers having better professional developments as far as in the community? It's just understanding, like I said, the population that they actually teach or are willing to teach. Or is that, having, like I said, just those town halls, so to speak, educational town halls where everybody come together and say, okay, well, what is the best course of action for us to ensure that our students get, the best possible outcome?
Right.
So I'm thinking, or at least from, like I said, that cultural perspective, that's what I would go that route as opposed to just budget. I would love for the budget to be there. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, cut any budgeting or anything.
I think that would solve a lot of problems.
Absolutely. Yeah, most definitely. It's just, I guess, like I said, I'm so adamant about building students' character, like their charisma and their academic prowess, making sure that they're, they say, okay, look, I want to learn about this aspect of, I'm just saying something randomly, West Africa, and those provinces there, and what transpired during the transatlantic slave trade or whatever the case may be. Like, I'm really adamant about learning about this, because then, of course, I can put them a tablet in front of them and say, okay, well, yeah, research what Queen Nzinga did, or whatever the case may be, and then they automatically just have that drive. I think every teacher wants that. You want that student that say, you know what, I'll take that concept and I'll run with it, or at least I'm receptive to it. So, and like I said, I always go back to just that cultural aspect of things. So like I said, and that's not to negate the fact that we need the budgeting, but but yeah, and I hope that answers the question satisfactorily.
Yeah,
that is
absolutely.
that's really sad.
Yeah.
That's a lofty question, Joe. I don't know if you and Bryan put it together, but
shout out to Joe with that question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent job, Joe.
So I would say that we need a committee of people to go in to the schools to find out what the disparity is, right? If there's this school that is like the model school, go into that school, see what they do, but then now go into other schools and see where, like I said, the disparity is and why is it not, and try to find some equity, right? So let's have a committee, let's do that, and then let's start pushing that agenda to try to get those resources for those schools that may be missing the mark. And I know DPI does some of this, but I've never seen DPI. I don't know, like the regulation committee or the DPI police. I've never met them, so I don't know what. Yeah, but I would say that let's start there. Let's start finding out where the disparities are and what we can do to help out those schools that may not be hitting the mark.
I guess just a little bit of a follow-up comment. What I'm hearing a lot is it kind of takes a village to raise a kid, to get him through that education process. It takes the family unit. It takes the teachers. It takes the administration. It takes the curriculum. It takes all these different things and all these pieces coming together to make sure that the student has quality education. Is that correct?
At least from my perspective, yeah. I was always taught that, we want to build students to be great stewards of the community. That they represent their community, well, that they're progressive and so on and so forth. So, yeah. So, in the process of building those great stewards, it does take that village, so to speak.
Yeah.
Definitely does.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. We see a lot of, I think, the teachers that I've had, and a couple of them, and I've only had 2 major Black teachers in my life going to the Glendale River Hill School District. It was Miss Jackson, I had her for 6th grade. Then I had Mr. Birmingham, and Mr. Birmingham was my boy. Mr. Birmingham took me in like he was like the father or like the uncle that was like on me, and then he was even closer to Shakur. Him and Shakur was even closer. But that connection that we had with Mr. Birmingham, the few of us, and him showing us love, and not only just during the school year, like Shakur would cut his grass. I had grass to cut, but Shakur was over there cutting his. Me, Mo. I had grass to cut for years. But Shakur would go cut his grass. But those relationships, I mean, we went to the going away party. We've been connected with a teacher with the school that Willie works at. We've been connected with him for a lifelong, and that's a lifelong relationship, and those relationships are important. Like you said, he was one person that, for years when I run into this guy, I got to have something good to say that I'm doing something out here, and all them teachers that we will run into like that, the way that district is set up, you definitely gonna have some relationships with teachers, either my sister's teachers that know me or some, and that's how it is at a lot of these districts. NPS, I know people that have friendships with, I'll tell everybody how close they are with all these teachers that work at King, that worked at all these middle schools and elementary schools around the relationships that y'all build with y'all students are lifelong, and they're always gonna remember the little key words that y'all done said to them, because I remember there was a teacher I had at Glen Hills, Mr. Madsen. He gave me some advice about, saying something to girls. This white guy, he's 70s hippie type of white teacher, Mr. Madsen, was my 5th grade teacher, but he just gave me some advice that it just stuck with me that I always would never forget. Just random white dude with a curly fro. That was my 5th grade teacher. Well, he was cool though, and it's just that advice, him, Ms. Jackson, Mr. Birmingham, those were some of the standout teachers that I had that I just would never forget. And they helped me shape in those years, that 5th grade, and had him 6th grade, had Ms. Jackson. In Birmingham, I had him pretty much 7th and 8th grade. So yeah. Is it my turn?
Impactful teachers, they can do that to you.
Yeah, big time, big time.
You remember them for a lifetime.
Yep.
And what they taught and so on. I actually had if y'all don't mind me
interjecting. No, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
So,
no.
Speaking of, this was a memorable teacher, not for the most positive reasons, but I was 3rd grade, and I won't say her name, but I love the teacher, but and this is why I actually always say that the family unit is so important. We were doing, it was Black History, thing that we were doing. And I remember I said, well, I want to do mine on Malcolm X. She said, I can't stand Malcolm X. She said, no, it's Dr. King or nothing. And I was taken aback. I'm like, well, in my household, Malcolm was, what I mean? So I said, hey, I went home and I referenced my father. I said, Pop so-and-so said that, I shouldn't do Malcolm X. And we had and that sparked. And I think at that point in time, my father knew at 3rd grade, he said, okay, well, and he, of course, explained it to me as a 3rd grader, but, and she was African-American, just to put preference on that. She was an African-American teacher. And, like I said, I was just, I'm like, man, 3rd grade, I'm like, Malcolm X, we read books about Malcolm X, so my father, like I said, explained to me and, and we talked about it. And then from that point on, I said, wow, and of course, I'm 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. It wasn't like that. Don't get me wrong, okay? I wasn't reading the autobiography at that time, okay? But it did spark. It sparked in me just, okay, what I learned at school is countered what I learned at home. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. So, and then from there, I never took everything for face value. I always questioned it.
Yeah.
So I became much more inquisitive, and that helped me throughout the course of my life. To this day, I'm still very inquisitive about everything.
Man, same man.
Yeah.
So big time.
So yeah.
You got to dig deep. Sometimes I'll be in rabbit holes at 3 a.m. Like, man, wait, hold up. On everything. I just whatever the topic is. I started at 12 a.m. and I'm reading 10 articles, 3 documentaries, 15-minute little short videos and podcasts about something that you just never knew, that was, whether it was American history that they want to drown and suppress, or some Black history that should be put on the mountaintop. So yeah. The next question I have for you two, so we were talking about just the metro and some of our students that live in lower income. How do you think that we can ensure that schools in lower income areas receive the same resources and support as those in wealthier districts? I think both for y'all, coming from backgrounds and working in schools, and then even Glen Hill's got schools. I was there to teach kids there from every level of background as far as socioeconomic status. So Again, for the question, how do you think we can ensure the schools in lower income areas receive the same resources and support as those in wealthier districts?
Somebody has to care about those lower. I don't even want to say lower income, but those schools that don't have the funding, right? Somebody has to care and want to get in those schools, find out what they can do to help those schools. And I know we have people around the city that go into schools that mentor, that do achievement things and read to the kids, and like that's definitely a start. Don't get me wrong. Do not get me wrong. We just need. I think we need some heads of offices and heads of state to really back education. Like you say, you want kids to grow up to be productive members of society,
Mhm.
but I can't really see it because I don't see the backing that you would get from somewhere else or something else getting it. And I'm not trying to make this political at all because I'm not a political person, but you can see where the funding is going and it's not going to the inner city, and it's devastating for kids who have the same possibilities and the same choices that kids who don't live in the inner city have. They just don't have. They don't even know or have the resources to get there. So I think I know we need some people to go in and really, and like you all go to the Capitol, whether that be Madison, whether that be Washington D.C., or just push the agenda for all of our kids.
Yeah. All right. About you, Tamal, what you think?
Yeah, I mean, I know Willie said, you don't want to make it political. It is politics.
Yeah.
Most of it is. I mean, it just is what it is. And because of that, most of the time, and sometimes, unfortunately, those schools that are in, the city or like fundedly challenged, so to speak, they are kind of pushed to the wayside, or you kind of just, say, look, we allot this to them, and then that's kind of is what it is, and then, if test scores are not as high as they want to see it, so to speak, then they can kind of validate either giving you more money or not giving you more money. Like, okay, well, gave you a certain amount of time to actually get these test scores up, and they're not there, so therefore, why would we keep allowing it? Which some of that makes sense, but for the most part, yeah, I think a lot of it is just that politics. It's just like we feel like they're not going to do well anyway, so it's kind of like why give them more money? And I'm speaking on behalf of what Willie was was conveying. So yeah, I think a lot of it is just that, just the politics. Because don't get me wrong, I hope I don't come off as being. I'm a very optimistic person. I think Bryan knows.
Oh yeah, we know. Oh yeah, I definitely know. Yeah, it's just real talk. It's real.
Right.
It's real.
So
we see it.
I want to put preface on that. We have some of the smartest and the greatest students and teachers and administrators in NPS.
Yeah.
And the metropolitan, like I said, Milwaukee metropolitan area. I'm going to just put that out here. I would take some of our students and administrators and staff against any of them in the state. So let me just say that, because I don't want to come off as, like I said, being, someone that's pessimistic and so on and so forth. But of course, we are the biggest district in Wisconsin, and so therefore you automatically, if you have one or two caveats where, they say, okay, well, yeah, this school is underperforming and then they're not doing too well, it's so easy for them to just focus on, or certain individuals just focus on those schools as being bad, as opposed to those other schools that actually are flourishing and are doing okay. So, and that's what I mean by when I say, like, the politics. Sometimes, like I said, it's easier to point the finger at a few quote unquote bad apples as opposed to highlighting all of those great things, because it is. There are great students and great, like I said, staff and great administrators in the Milwaukee metropolitan area. So yeah, I would say, I think sometimes the politics kind of gets in the way, and that can become detrimental to just overall well-being of a school system.
Yeah. Real quick, I'll do a plug. Anybody got any Anybody got any questions, comments for Willie or Tamal? You can hit us at 414-444-5253, 414-444-5253. Back to you, Joe.
Yeah. Great stuff there, Bryan.
Some crazy.
I think we already touched on, how we can support teachers, and that was going to be my next question. But we was talking politics. As much as we're trying not to talk about politics, we're talking politics. And there's a big race coming up here on April 1st that has to do with education. So maybe you could tell us a little bit with the state superintendent. Maybe tell us about that role and how important that is to the jobs that you guys do.
And go ahead.
Yeah, so I haven't been following this state superintendent race because I just haven't because I'm dealing with real life right now. But I know how important Tony Evers was and what he did while he was in that position, and becoming the governor of Wisconsin, like that's a great step. I just want somebody in office that actually cares. Right. Cares about all kids. I know I've been saying this, I'm like a broken record, but I just need someone that can actually get in there and change things for the better for all kids.
Someone genuine
Facts.
that genuinely has that
Thank
care
you.
for kids.
Thank you. Right. Not just, in one section of the state. You know what I'm saying? Far up north, out southwest, wherever. We need to see that focus all the way around to, that should be a highlight to make successful kids, next generation out the state of Wisconsin, because they will go all across the country and the world. They're not going to stay here. Everybody, you want to see that success shoot out all across the country and across the world. I mean, that's what I see from people I went to school with, people I went to high school with. They all across the world. They not just in the state of Wisconsin. Or
and then can we please get someone that has been in the classroom, taught in the classroom,
right?
That has that work experience, because they would know what teachers need and what parents need and what kids need if they actually lived it.
Right.
Most definitely, I concur with what Willie just said. Someone that has actually been in the classroom. It's hard to speak and really give advice if you haven't been in the classroom and you haven't dealt with students. You don't know their needs. You haven't dealt with the parents.
Right.
I mean, so it's a different story when you actually have been in there and you lived it, as opposed to saying, okay, well, I'm just in the office and I know what they need.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Makes a big difference. So I concur.
We got a caller real quick. Caller, you on the air, Be a Voice Radio, Wisconsin Voices. Good morning.
Good morning. This is Mr. White. I really like what you guys are saying, because what we really need back into our school system here in Milwaukee are the I can't even know. It's truant officers. When you go into the home and meet these people. I've worked with MPS for many years. I've worked with the Boys and Girls Club. I've worked with St. Charles. So I know a lot of the families. And the one thing the one gentleman said about the school system is it's important to get them into a place where they want to be comfortable to learn as well as socialize the correct way to become productive citizens.
Awesome. Thank you.
I like that. Appreciate that, Mr. White. Thanks for calling, Mr. White.
Yeah.
Thank you, and thanks for taking the call. And you guys keep on doing it, because we need to hear that, but we need also for these parents to take responsibility.
Amen.
For their kids, So
I agree. I totally agree with that one.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for calling. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome stuff.
Good. We in there. All right, cool. How can school districts ensure teachers feel valued and supported in their roles? I know we talked about that a little bit, right? Yeah.
I mean,
I was break time.
Is there anything else to add to that? Because it seems like the teachers are kind of the central fuse of the education of the child. So, what can we do? What maybe not even from a political standpoint or from our standpoint, but what can just a parent or anybody else do to help support those teachers?
Pardon me. Willie, you want to go?
Yeah, I would say how can we make teaching attractive? I have to get this off, and I have to say this: we need more Black men in the classroom. And I know Black women are doing great jobs in the classroom, but we need more Black men in the classroom. We need more role models, Black male role models in the schools. I think that would make a huge difference. So where can parents start? go to school, go back to school, and become a teacher. And like, if you really want to see some difference, go back to school. Yeah. I know it's not that easy. Don't get me wrong, but go back to school, become a teacher, and if you really want to see some change, let's get into the classroom.
Yeah. Say, hey, but you be the change, right? Ma, what you think?
Yeah, that's pay them 6 figures plus. No, I mean, you do. You have to make it attractive. Teaching is a profession. I know some people actually just refer to it as a calling. Like you had to be called to actually do, to do teaching or be in education like that. I truly believe that there is a lot that goes into education as far as, from a teacher's perspective. So, yeah, I mean, any resource that you can get from the family, as I think I stated before, that's always beneficial. And because there's so much on the plate of a teacher and even more so administrator, I think, even a weekly email, just, how's my son doing? How's my daughter doing? That may even kind of be some type of support, because at least then the teacher knows that person cares enough to actually email me and just see, and that student could be a straight A student, but at least nevertheless, they will know, okay, they're supported by, those parents.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, Willie has any assistant principals underneath them, but sometimes that, because from an administrator perspective, you're dealing with, not only just students, you're dealing with staff, you're dealing with, those parents, you're dealing with, just like I said, a plethora of different things. So, support from administration is always great, but I think, teachers also have to understand too that, there's a lot that the administrators are doing. They have a lot to deal with as well. So like I said, parental, I think that whole village concept that we just talked about, it kind of, it's like that in the school. I always look at that as like a microcosm of the community. All right. So, a school is just that, it's the learning facility, or like I said, a microcosm of the larger community, and what they have to offer. So yeah. So I think, like support from the parents, support from administration, like I said, within reason. All of those things would be great for a teacher to, to be successful and to actually stay in a certain, certain positions.
Yeah. Perfect. Appreciate that. We're going to take another break real quick. We back on Be a Voice Radio, Wisconsin Voices with Willie Williams and Tamal Hazelwood, two administrators up here doing their thing in the community, in the city, and the surrounding areas. Tap in 414-444-5253. We'll be right back. We're back on Be a Voice Radio, Wisconsin Voices, WNOV, 860 AM, 106.5. Do we still got a caller? Caller, you're on the air. Be a Voice Radio, Wisconsin Voices. Good morning.
Good morning. This is Andrew Ward.
Mr.
Teacher
Ward.
I taught I've been an educator for 60 years.
Kudos to
And
you,
I've
sir.
been in MPS. And what you were saying about we need more black males in the school system, I graduated from Turner High School in Atlanta. I had all black everything. And there was and I am a teacher because of my teachers. We need that. And the way to get that, I talked to Posey when he was superintendent. We need to get people in the schools, they could be aides, parents, or whatever, and at the same time have them go to school, become teachers, and you own them, and they're still working and getting paid, and they don't have to worry about their tuition. And there are a lot of people out there. As a matter of fact, I have paid tuition for a lot of people. And when I was working, they had a system at UWM where you could take 2 classes and get 60 credits. That's a head start on your certification. And I had counseled 2 people, at least 2 people, to become teachers. And I can name them. One was Williams and one was Walker. Just 2 of the people. That's a good program. And if you want to really do that, you have to do it. And you have to do it on a large scale. Posey said they were already doing it, but it must be on too small a scale.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you
heard it right there.
for the years in education too.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Ward, for 60 years of education and serving and getting more teachers out in the community. So thank you again. We're just gonna highlight that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got a couple of minutes left. I just wanted to ask, what are some of the most successful programs or initiatives you've seen since you guys have been in education?
Well, I'll start. I know I'm not in a school system per se, so I can't speak, like I said, learnedly about that at this point in time. But when I was a part of Innovation Zone. It was an MPS initiative where they took teachers and they put them in 3 different schools. And I will say the schools, it was SCTE, North Division of Pulaski. And we were brought in to actually support and help those teachers at those respective locations. And it was great, not only from a student perspective, but I think a staff perspective as well, because we would support those those teachers in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
So if, a teacher was having some challenges, whether it was, with the curriculum or if it was, with some students, we kind of dealt with that. So we dealt with classroom management. We dealt with lesson planning, which is very big, because sometimes a teacher can have a great lesson plan. I mean, just well written out, and it's just, you're like, oh, this is going to go over so well. If they don't know how to apply it to the classroom, it kind of goes to the wayside.
Right. So I ain't never thought about that.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a big one right there.
Absolutely.
I see really like that one right there.
Yeah, see that quite often, So,
Wow.
so we were brought in to actually just help with that concept and whatnot, and it was great. And I will say that all 3 of those schools were, we enjoyed being in those schools because they did have those challenges, and even more so, we think that we did our part. Or at least I think I did my part. I don't want to speak for the other compeers that were on there, but nevertheless, that program was good. I'm not sure if it's still active. I'm not sure if MPS still does it. I might actually look into it myself, but that was one of those great programs that were, at least that we've seen some benefit from. Like I said, we were able to gauge and get a great rapport with some of the students that we had come in contact with as well. So it was just a great program. So
awesome.
Yeah, so it's 3 I would just like to talk about. First is Pearls for teen girls.
Absolutely.
They come into the school. I got a first chance to meet with Pearls when I was working at Milwaukee College Prep, and then when I went to Carmen, they had Pearls for teen girls as well. So they just help out young ladies and try to build a sisterhood and build bonds for our young ladies, because we know the statistics with our African American young ladies in school being put out the most, and it's just huge disparity. So shout out and kudos to Pearls for Teen Girls.
I concur.
Next, I would say any type of program or initiative that gets your like paraprofessionals, how to elevate them to like get them to be teachers, and then also get them to become administrators. So whatever type of initiative or program that is, where you can see the worth in your people and try to just instill that type of like education is important. So like elevate those people, put them in some after school programs at a local college to get them their certification so that they can become teachers. That was one thing I've seen that's been helpful. And then for myself, I was a Burke Fellow. That was through schools at Cam Milwaukee. Shout out to all my Burke Fellows. They, I got a free ride to get my my master's, and like all I had to do was apply, and I got chosen. Then I had to go to class, of course, but like it wasn't free, but it was not the fee that you would think someone going to get their master. So whatever we can do to elevate our people, I say elevate our teachers, elevate our support staff, just to get, because we see them every day and they're doing the work. So why not back them?
And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention one, sharp literacy. So we actually have a partnership with Sharp Literacy at Our Next Generation. So they come in, they do phenomenal work. So in the summertime, and just a basic overview of Our Next Generation, we have 4 different programs. So we have our summer program, our summer camp, which is still academic based, but it's not as strenuous because of course it's summertime and they don't want to do all things academic, right? Then we have our homework club that is during the regular school semester, fall and spring. And then we have our high school connection, or our Leaders of Tomorrow, which is relegated just for the high schoolers. So during the summertime, we actually bring Sharp Literacy in. They do a fantastic job. And I know Willie can attest to this as well. There's a reading drop-off in that summer. Most of the time, students are kind of, they're out having a good time. And sometimes their reading scores can kind of just come down. So therefore, we bring in Sharp Literacy to keep that score up when they do return to school in the fall. So Sharp Literacy is also, they do great things. I've seen them do great things in school. So
shout out to them organizations. Thank y'all. I look like we got one caller. We got 30 seconds. Caller, you're going to be a Voice Radio, Wisconsin Voices.
I just wanted to make another point. In the 90s, I worked at Clark Street Elementary School. And at that school, it was outstanding, and it was noted in the paper because they were doing very well with the students in the community. But what I noticed, they had specialists pulling these students out for math and some other subjects. They took them out by groups and by position.
Okay.
And the aides were in the hallway.
Mr. Wood, Mr. Wood, I don't want to have to cut you off.
I know you got to go.
Yeah, we gotta go. You got to give us the next time.
Have a good one.
I want to thank Willie Hazelwood and Willie Williams and Tamar Hazelwood for coming on, educators and men that are leading the education here in the city of Milwaukee and surrounding areas in the county. Thank y'all, man. Any hopes for the future of education, real quick? Anything y'all want to say real quick before we get up out here?
Well, I just look for progressiveness. I just want everything to be progressive.
Okay. That's it. Well, be a Voice Radio, Wisconsin Voices, WNOV 860, 106.5 FM. We'll see y'all next week tomorrow. Actually.
Thank y'all.